Hey, it's Rod Yates. Welcome to Mastering Events, an Audience Republic podcast. Each episode, I'll be talking to some of the world's most accomplished event professionals to discover how they got where they are today, the lessons they've learned throughout that journey, and their insights around event marketing and maximizing ticket sales. My guest today is artist manager and music tech startup advisor, Randy Nichols. Randy has one of those resumes that makes you question whether he's found a few more hours in the day than the rest of us. In addition to being the MD of Force Media Management, through which he manages artists like Underoath, Randy is also a board member for the International Independent Talent Organization, an advisor for atVenu and Immensity, while also working with 1175 Collective and Fly South Music Group. And that's just for starters. Randy is very hands-on with the marketing for his artists, and with Underoath currently in the middle of what's proving to be a very successful European and US run of shows, I thought it was a great time to speak with him about some of the marketing techniques they've used to sell tickets. Before we get to that though, I also wanted to speak with Randy about the Department of Justice's antitrust lawsuit against Live Nation Ticketmaster, as he's been very vocal about what he thinks this bill will and won't achieve, and where the focus should be in order to reduce ticket prices and increase accessibility to shows for fans. Lastly, I just want to mention that the technical gremlins came out to play during the recording of this episode, which explains why the sound of my audio changes during the interview. Luckily, and most importantly, it didn't affect Randy's audio, which is who we want to hear from anyway. Without further ado, here's Randy Nichols. So I wanted to start with one of the hot button topics at the moment, which is, of course, the Department of Justice antitrust lawsuit against Live Nation. And I'm really interested from your perspective. Like, what do you think the biggest misconception about what this is trying to achieve is? And what do you think it will achieve?
So as far as misconceptions, I think a lot of people believe that this is about ticket prices, access to tickets, and that if you were to punish Live Nation / Ticketmaster in some way, that it is going to allow fans to get tickets easier. And I don't see any scenario in what that happens. People think that Ticketmaster sets the ticket price, when in reality, all that Ticketmaster is really doing is acting as a pass-through to collect money from ticket sales and fees and passing them along to promoters and venues. While Ticketmaster does collect a portion of the service fee, the vast majority of that service fee is going to the venue and or promoter. So that's very much misunderstood, drives a significant amount of anger and confusion with both fans and all the way up to people who are running our government.
So what then do you think is their intention behind this suit? Do you think they understand it? Does the government understand that?
So I do believe that if you read the Justice Department inquiry, they do understand what is going on and what potential problems may be with Live Nation Ticketmaster. Some of these problems, in my opinion, are systemic to the industry and not specific to an individual company. If you kind of take a history lesson and take a step back, the concert industry has always been monopolies to varying degrees. In the United States, you had a company called Delsner Slater Presents, who represented New York, Don Law, who represented Boston, Electric Factory Concerts in Philly, Cellar Door in DC, Bill Graham in San Francisco. I could go on and on. These promoters controlled the vast majority of talent that played in their city. What happened in the mid-90s is a gentleman, and I use that word loosely, named Robert Sillerman, decided that he could roll up all of these promoters into one company and then create an advertising business, selling advertising and, pouring rights to brands and all kinds of things across all these promoters. So what really happened is you took these individual state by state monopolies and made it, in theory, a national monopoly. But what changed as a lot of these companies were acquired, competition started popping up more and more. And you had AEG, who's the number 2 biggest player in the States, be created and grow significantly. And, you still have the independent sector, thank God. I was just at the NEVA conference last week with some of the best independent venues in the country. And, there's some people there that will tell you they feel that Live Nation is a monopoly, and the CEO of AEG will tell you it's a monopoly. But what a monopoly actually is complicated. And I'm not a monopoly expert, an antitrust expert in U.S. law, but I can tell you that I believe it's going to be difficult to prove all of their points. Are there going to be some points that they get through? I think absolutely. But sadly, to your first question, one of those outcomes will absolutely not be lower ticket prices or lower fees. I can almost guarantee that. If you separate Live Nation from Ticketmaster, make them sell off the company, if you break up the company back to the old days in the 90s of individual promoters, none of those outcomes is going to change the ticket price, because the vast majority of the ticket price is going to the artist and or the expenses to operate a concert venue. And the interesting thing about this potential monopoly with Live Nation is when you control the concert venue, when you control the food and beverage that's sold, the parking rights, the advertising revenue that's coming in that's sold across multiple venues, you're actually making more money because all these things are going on, which allow them to pay the artist more without raising the ticket price higher. And that is not me endorsing what Live Nation does, but it goes through the many misconceptions of, you could have a monopoly that's blocking other businesses from operating, but it's also good for the customer.
Right. You mentioned
and the artist.
Right. You mentioned that ticket prices won't come down under this. This lawsuit will not affect ticket prices. Is there anything that can impact ticket prices, or is that horse bolted?
Well, the way I look at it, the only thing that's going to impact ticket prices is if artists get paid less money, or if venues can find ways to operate for less expenses. And me as a manager, I just go, it's my ticket prices, and for every dollar we add, it's $1 more in my artist's pocket. But for the venues, they're struggling to make ends meet at, especially at the independent venue level. But as you scale up to larger venues, there's significant expenses to operate a venue. Last week at NEVA, I could not tell you how many people were complaining about how expensive their property taxes are and what their property tax increases are. And when you have a venue in the wrong side of town that suddenly turns the whole neighborhood around, and they were operating on the economics of before the neighborhood turned around, in that turnaround that they led, they're suddenly penalized by paying higher taxes because of it. And their entire margins now change. So while I'm not in the business of trying to put more money in the promoter's pocket, I do understand their struggles as well. And these are all what goes into a ticket price.
Right. And what about the impact of scalpers and the secondary market? You've been very vocal about, I guess, the scourge of that sector of the industry. From your perspective, can you break down the issues that the secondary market is causing from a managerial perspective?
So the best way to look at the scalpers are, they are people who are coming and buying tickets and then turning a profit off of these tickets. They have no investment in the developing of artists. They have no involvement in all these expenses that I just mentioned, the venues. These venues, they're struggling to pay property taxes and all these other expenses. These scalpers come along. They're using tools that are illegal technically, but never enforced, to grab large amounts of tickets and then flip those tickets for a profit and that money stays out of the live music ecosystem. The artist doesn't get it. The venue doesn't get it. The local government that needs to make their taxes, they don't get it. All this money is pulled out and going to, quite often, these multinational players who are making literally billions of dollars a year and bringing nothing to the live event ecosystem.
And, a lot of the talk around that secondary market around scalpers has been around mega artists, like Taylor Swift. And you hear that, you can't get a ticket to her shows in the States at the moment for less than $1,000. But as a manager of artists at the level of, say, Underoath, how does scalping impact your business? Is it just as impactful against artists of that level as it is the mega artists?
So scalping affects artists of all sizes. If you're playing a club that has the potential to sell out, scalpers are involved and watching. They have software that is searching all the shows to understand how much inventory is out there. And if there is an opportunity to make money, they are jumping in. With a Taylor Swift ticket, there's a lot more risk for them because Taylor Swift is pricing her tickets high. And, granted, they have a high likelihood to resell them, but the tickets are priced much higher and can have actually a smaller profit margin per ticket sometimes, but the numbers are bigger. So, when you look at, by scale, if you buy a ton of smaller artist tickets, you can make more money per ticket. For instance, on an Underoath current tour, we're selling tickets at around $35 a piece, playing, for the most part, 1,000 to 2,000 capacity venues. These scalpers have tools where they are checking every day how many tickets are left in the system for a show. So they use these things that, I don't know what the proper term would be, but I've been calling them carting bots because they put tickets in the cart and they operate like 100 different browsers at one time. And they try to figure out exactly how many tickets are left for the show. And when there is an amount that they feel comfortable that they could sell the remainder of the tickets, they buy all of them instantly. So for Underoath, for instance, we have a show at Ram's Head Live in Baltimore. And the promoter alerted us, and I saw it as well on our weekly ticket counts, that we had 400 tickets left, selling, 20, 30 tickets a day. And then one day we went from 450 tickets to 0 instantly. So we sold, 20x the number of tickets in one day. Something's not right. They run a scalper bot sweep and they can go through all their data and figure out when they were all purchased, who purchased them, and cancel the tickets. But they're buying those tickets at $35 a pop and could easily resell them for $150 because it's a hot show, which is a 5x return on investment.
So what can you do? Is there a way that you can counter that?
Well, what we've done in this scenario that I've given an example of, and we've done this multiple times throughout this tour already, is the ticketing companies will, for the most part, work with us to cancel those orders. And the tickets go back into the system and fans can buy them again. That doesn't mean that the scalpers don't try new ways to buy them, but quite often they get disenfranchised and they go away on these smaller shows because there's so many of these smaller shows that they could go after that they just, keep moving and don't come back.
I've seen some people say that there are a couple of ways to counter scalpers. One is to raise the high initial ticket prices because then that maximizes the scalper's risk. Another one is that artists need to play more shows, which I guess reduces the idea of these being hot tickets. Are either of those practical solutions?
They can be, and there's examples of it. But on the first side, raising ticket prices. This goes to kind of where our conversation started. How is the Justice Department going to lower ticket prices if the scalpers are the ones in the middle jacking the prices up, and the Justice Department isn't investigating scalpers? So that just I just have to flag that because it's laughable that they're going to help on that front. The biggest reason that we are seeing a raise in ticket prices over the last several years is as technology gets better and we can more strongly understand the secondary market, we're learning better how to price tickets. And artists are raising the prices on some of the tickets in order to combat the scalpers. And, there's something called dynamic pricing, which a lot of people are very frustrated by, but most people also don't fully understand it. And part of the reason they don't understand it is because there's a huge lobbying campaign with a bunch of money being thrown at it by the scalpers to make people think that you're literally changing the price when people put a ticket in the cart, or just jacking up the price for no reason. What most artists are doing is they're coming in, pricing the ticket a little higher on the on sale, and then also doing something that they call platinum tickets, where once you blow through the vast majority of the tickets, you will then leave, say, the last 3 or 4% of the tickets priced at the same number that the scalpers are selling them at. And the idea is to flood the market with additional tickets that make it harder for the scalpers to unload their tickets. And we could then dynamically lower those prices if, we can't sell them and the scalpers can't sell them. But we, rather than have, after 97% of the tickets are sold, there's 3% left. Let's say the artist and promoter hold 2% of them, the scalpers hold 1% of them. We want to use our power to lower their prices. So we can start high, stay next to theirs. As they struggle to sell them, we can keep dropping our prices and make them more affordable. But at the end of the day, that last 3% that didn't get tickets is quite likely paying more money. But the idea from the artist and the promoter isn't to gouge the fans. It's to take some of that money back into the pot and take money out of the scalper's pot. Because every ticket the scalper makes, the artist doesn't make a dime on. And if we sold all of our tickets at, say, that $300 range, only rich fans could go to the show. It leaves other fans who don't have as much access to money completely on the street. So we're trying to find these fine lines to price in a way where, the well-to-do fan could get in right away and be guaranteed. And we could create tools for the fan that has less money to ensure they get in, because artists don't want to play in front of just a bunch of rich people who just happen to have access. They want to play in front of real fans. And the scalper argument is just simply that we're mispricing our product. And we're not mispricing our product. We're in a 20, 30-year growth plan where if you have that 15-year-old kid come to your show who only has 25 or 30 bucks, they're going to come back for the rest of their life. That 50-year-old stockbroker who just heard the song on the newest playlist is going to come one time and move on to the next thing and not really care. Right. So we're trying to price correctly to develop relationships with fans. And that's where the scalpers are just dead wrong when they say we're mispricing our product, because we could sell them all at a higher price and potentially make the same amount of money and even leave half the room empty. But we don't want to leave the rooms empty. We want to have real fans in the room and make it illegal to play with the market and rip people off.
It's complex.
Yes. And to your other question of playing as many shows as you can do, there's a handful of acts who have done that. Nobody has done it better in the States, as well as internationally to some degree, than Garth Brooks. Garth Brooks will pick a market, have just one market on sale, put a show on sale, be holding a week or a month's worth of shows based on what they believe the demand may be. And they just keep selling tickets until no one wants any anymore. And that last show will almost always be half empty. And Garth is okay with playing a half empty room because the scalpers are screwed. And if that half empty room blows out and starts selling more, he'll add yet another one. And the idea is, F you to the scalpers. We are always going to have, enough supply to meet demand. But most artists don't have that ability or scale to pull that off. And especially, take an artist like Underoath. We have a couple of markets where we're adding multiple shows. I have about a 55-date tour over 2.5 months, and we have to get to the next city. We can't afford to put just Denver on sale and see what happens. We sold out 2 Denver shows. We probably could have gotten to 4, but we don't have the room to just put those up. And if we put them up just in a vacuum simply for Denver shows, our expenses go through the roof because we're paying to fly everyone out there. We're paying for hotel rooms rather than tour buses. We're, renting gear there. There's a significant amount of expenses that you don't get in scale of being a part of a tour. And once again, the promoters don't participate in any of this because they're not investing in the live event. They're just simply buying and selling and speculating.
Right. That's the scalpers, not the promoters.
Correct.
So, yes, gotcha.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, the scalpers. My bad. Thank you for correcting me.
Not at all. So let's talk about that 55-day tour at the moment that Underoath are on. What have you found to be the most effective channels for selling tickets at the moment? Like, what's really moved the needle?
Ultimately, it comes down to the tried and true of the last 10 or 15 years, and it's email and social media and a lot of the boring standard tools. We're doing a lot around this Underoath tour to kind of create bumps in sales over time. And, one of those things that we're doing was one of the first feature things that we did is there's a Instagram channel and YouTube influencer named Emo's Not Dead. And they get tremendous traffic on their videos. And we went to them and said, hey, why don't we collaborate on a video with Underoath and Matt, who started Emo's Not Dead, and make a video about Underoath in some way that's comedic. And the thought was, okay, for, the month of May, that was our tentpole moment that was going to get people to talk and be shared virally. And that was a moment. And then in June, we're doing a vinyl reissue of this same record that they're doing the 20th anniversary tour for. And then in July, we're going to be launching a comic book partnership with a company called Sumerian Comics, and they're making a Chasing Safety comic book. So July, and this isn't set in stone, but I'm happy to share it with people because if it's not July, it'll probably be August, but it'll most likely be July. Yeah. July, we'll release the first edition of the Chasing Safety Sumerian comic book series. And that becomes our tentpole moment for that month. Then in August, we're doing something where fans can vote for a curated set on each individual show of the tour to pick what their encore is going to be. Because every show, the band is going to play their biggest album start to finish. But then there's a fan-voted encore. The promoters are going to email fans with a link, only if you bought a ticket, to go to this link and vote for what set you want to hear the band play as their encore. So that will become kind of our August story. And then we have other brand collaborations. For instance, we haven't announced this one yet, so I'll show just the back. Yeah. But we're going to do an Underoath bourbon partnership. Oh, cool. And that will be kind of the tentpole moment for another month. And so that's sort of how I'm trying to drive this. And the 20th of every month, we'll have another big drop to celebrate the 20th anniversary. Yeah, so while we are using a lot of the traditional tools, we're trying to create tentpole moments in, a scheduled time frame to bring excitement to the tour and drive revenue for the band.
Is that something that you've done in the past, or is this a new way of doing things for you?
This is a new template, but this tour is about the 20th anniversary of an album that is a very beloved album from the band. There's a lot of different people that want to partner with us. There's a lot of really cool stuff that fans want. You could drop it all at once, or you could kind of come up with a schedule and create exciting moments throughout the year. I think it'll be more exciting for the fans, more exciting for the band, help sell both more product and tickets, and I truly think a better fan experience. So while, as a manager, I'm, of course, trying to think of how to make the band the most money, but I think as a fan, I'm more excited to discover regularly, there's this other cool thing, versus on, the anniversary date, there's a comic book, a whiskey, apparel collaboration,
Right.
and just
Yeah.
all out on the same day. Like, that's just not really as exciting to me as a fan, at least.
Sure. And when you think of those moments that you've had to date, so we're talking in early June, have you seen a bump in ticket sales accompany those moments that you've created?
Yeah, so the first moment was the video, and I absolutely did see a ticket bump. Was it a huge one? No, but there was absolutely a bump. And the great thing is about these videos is they're very viral. There's a long tail effect where people are going to continue to watch them and send them to their friends. And it has a commercial for the tour in it. The video is about that album even. So it will be in the dialogue regularly. So maybe we saw an extra 500 tickets for the tour sold the week the video dropped. Maybe it was a little bit more. I'd have to go back and look at the numbers. But
Sure.
500 extra tickets across the tour. If I haven't gotten to my week 2 numbers, but if that video drops 500 tickets, extra tickets week 1 and 500 tickets week 2, over the course of the tour, it's a significant boost. And then each one of these drivers, if they could do the same, the tour is going to sell out regardless in almost every market, but we will get to sell out even quicker.
Yeah. So you mentioned you're doing that in conjunction with, I guess, the more tried and true tactics, email, socials, etc. Any socials channels sort of working better for you than in the past, or have any sort of new techniques popped up that perhaps are new for the past 12 to 24 months in terms of how you approach your socials?
I haven't seen one specific platform outperforming the others, but there's 2 things here. One, I can only see engagement on the platforms. Unfortunately, none of the ticketing companies give you access to conversion data to know where your sales are coming from. So, the music industry is one of the few products in the world where you create a product, you go out to sell it, and all the people who sell the product for you give you very little of the core data around that transaction. So, on the concert ticket, Ticketmaster, nor Access, nor, C Tickets or anyone else is giving you transaction data. So again, going to the Justice Department thing, not to keep harping on it, but is it unfortunate Ticketmaster doesn't do that? Yes, but nobody does it. And if you look at streaming, it's no different. They will tell you that your listeners live in New York, that they have, this age demographic and a few things, but you don't know who those people are or core information about them either, or how they got there, like whether they came from your Facebook post or your TikTok post. And in working with a company called Immensity, which is a company I advise for, they have some AI and machine learning tools that are better helping you to learn where those conversions are happening from the socials. But it's very difficult without getting true conversion data. But there's companies that are trying to figure it out. And that's one tool that I am using to help better understand it.
Yeah. And does Immensity, has that given you any indication of which channels? I know it's not an exact science yet, but which channel tends to convert better for ticket sales for you?
I haven't been able, it's tough because a lot of our campaigns are running on multiple platforms at once. But, if we're making a new announcement, we run it everywhere. We would have to run it on just one platform. But what I can tell you is that we're seeing stronger and stronger conversions from TikTok over time, which I don't think is a huge surprise to anyone.
You mentioned earlier one of the big moments that you're going to be pushing out in the next couple of months is fans actually voting for what the encore is going to be on Underoath's tour. I presume this is one method of trying to learn data about everyone at the show, because to an extent, you get the data of the people who buy tickets, but they might be buying 3 or 4 tickets. So there's, 3 or 4 people.
Oh, no. You're misunderstanding the U.S. concert business. We do not get that information. The promoter gets it. The venue gets it. So, and this kind of, again, goes to the monopoly of Live Nation Ticketmaster really well. So the ticketing company's customer is not a fan. The customer of a ticketing company is a concert venue or promoter. First Avenue in Minneapolis, Minnesota. They have a deal with Access Ticketing. They go to Access, or they go to all the ticketing companies, say, our contract's up. who wants to work with us. Access makes them an offer on a deal that gives them a certain amount of an advance up front. And then on top of that, they share a per dollar fee on every service fee on tickets. And they are the customer of the ticketing company. That data then comes from the ticketing company to their customer, the promoter. And most promoters do not then share that data with the customer. I will add the caveat that the example that I gave, I met with the head of ticketing for First Avenue at the NEVA conference last week, and she told me that they do actually pass that data along to the artist. So that one does it. But again, it's not our data. It is a venue's data or a promoter's data, and then they so choose if they want to give it to us.
So how do you learn about who's at your show?
You need to activate in-venue activations. There's a company called Set.live that's been doing some really interesting in-venue activations. I'm working on a project with Underoath, which I won't divulge a lot of yet because it's just too early yet. But we are going to do a giveaway every night on our tour. I should say in every city on our tour, because on multiples, I don't think we can do it every night. So, and by multiples, I mean 2 shows, the same city over multiple days.
Sure.
But what this contest will be is fans will have the opportunity to win a one-of-a-kind item. The best equivalent I could give is like a gold record. But it's not a gold record, but it's something super cool and historical from the band that we only have so many in existence. And we are going to reward fans by entering in some way to get access to this at every show. And the concept is it's twofold. One, it's something that is so cool that I'm mad that I can't get one because there's not enough of them. Like, I would pay a lot of money and I'm the band's manager to have one of these. So we're creating this massively in-demand, super cool item that we're going to do a giveaway of every day. And the idea is that fans in the room will have to go to a certain place to enter to either raffle or win, or, we haven't figured out kind of exactly how we're going to execute, which is why I'm being kind of coy on this.
Sure.
But that's where you have to go nowadays to get fan data. Like, you need to create these moments in a show that make people want to engage. A lot of artists will do things like, hey, we're going to do an encore later on in the show. Which song do you want to hear in the encore? This one or that one? Go to this website and vote. Mm-hmm. And everyone's entering an email address. There's all these different types of tools that people are creating because the venues, for the most part, are not giving us this data.
Right. And that's why, I guess when you go on to Underoath's website, very quickly you get pop-up offers, sign up and save a certain amount of money on merchandise, for example. Is that, to this point, is that the most impactful and effective way of getting audience data of some description?
It's better than just saying, please sign up. Giving someone a motivation, at least of a deal, is helpful. And our online merch stores are pretty much the only way that we could get fan data. And it's really frustrating because, one, we're a direct-to-consumer business. We're creating a product that we're trying to sell to our customers. But the other side of it is there's a real emotional connection between artists and fans. And you have these gatekeepers getting in the way of these relationships. These huge multinational corporations that control how you interact with music, they don't care about your personal relationship to music. They care about their profits. So it's very frustrating, both on a business sense for us, just in a relationship sense with fans, and it creates a worse fan experience because of it.
Absolutely. I mean, am I right in thinking that I think I've seen you talk about some vinyl reissues you've done in the past and you've attached NFTs to them? Is that correct? And that's been a way to then, I guess, have a communication, have a relationship with the person who's bought that?
Yes and no. And for one thing, we did that in a partnership with another company. So we didn't directly do that. But, the first thing is yes, there was NFTs. Yes, it created community and all these things. But in our D2C stores, we can do that already. So that is the one place where we can actually communicate. But, if we were to sell them in retail with the NFTs, which wasn't part of that project, that would allow you to communicate with the fan. But that specific partnership was with a magazine called Revolver Magazine, where they were creating a program to reward fans and create community around all their customers. And we did use those NFTs as a way to authenticate who, were some of our biggest fans around vinyl. And we had some new projects come up. We sent offers to them first to get first crack at things.
Right.
But unfortunately, in the wild world of NFTs, I don't even know where that project stands anymore, which is part of the reason why I didn't want to launch our own NFTs. And we also didn't sell those vinyl for a very high ticket price because I didn't have confidence for the fans that it would 100% stick around for years. And, the cool thing with that vinyl NFT series was there were opportunities to get 1 of 1 vinyl, 3 of 3s, 5 of 5s, 10 of 10s. So while you had, these limited NFTs, you were also entered to win these incredibly limited pressings where you could have literally the only one of the pressing. So it created other kinds of value for the fans. Otherwise, I don't know that I would have agreed to that project.
Right. Well, I mean, talking about, you said that, with what you could achieve through that project was you could, that community or that create that sense of community, but you can already do that through your D2C website at the moment. Is there anything about NFTs that excites you in terms of nurturing fan relationships or selling tickets?
The NFTs are tough because it's really a great technology to verify, some of those other things. But unless, I kind of almost describe NFTs these days like it's like gasoline. Gasoline is really valuable if you have an automobile, and you could put it in your car and it's a great product. But if you have nowhere to take it, it's just something that can explode. And so I don't hate NFTs. I don't love them, but a lot of these things, you could create a secure ticket with or without NFTs. You could create a secure community with fans with or without NFTs. So I'm not anti-NFT, but I am trying to find more practical applications for them. And there are some out there, but there's just not many.
Right. One of the things which I noticed on the Underoath website is when you look at the tour dates, the first thing you see at the top is the VIP experience. And it sets out really clearly what you can expect from that experience. What have you found to be the most effective ways of marketing VIP experiences?
The thing with VIP experiences, the marketing is almost second to the quality of the package. If you have something that people are dying to have, the packages sell themselves. If you have something that's blah, it's not selling no matter what you do. But, some benefits to moving more of these VIP packages is you could sell them on your own website, or if you partner with the ticketing companies and have them show up when fans go to the ticketing companies and they have the option to buy your ticket or your VIP ticket, you typically see a higher conversion rate for VIPs if you have them on the ticketing company's page. They charge you a percentage to do that, which is damaging, to our bottom line, but you do tend to move more of them. There's pros and cons to that whole, thing. Like one of them being when you sell a VIP ticket on your own website, you can break down every last detail. If you sell it on Ticketmaster or Access, they have, you can't include an image usually. You can only have so many letters of text. Quite often venues have their own venue VIP program and fans get confused and think they bought the interaction with the band and they actually bought a venue VIP access. So it can get very confusing also.
Right. So it's really in your interest to be driving everyone to your site where you have control.
Yeah, the more you could drive to your own site and have the most control is always going to be best. I would love to sell as many interactions with our fans via Shopify. There's so many tools to manage that communication, capture the data, keep in better communication with the fans. And I would love to sell our VIP packages in Shopify. I've done it in the past. I hope to be able to do it more in the future, but some of it comes down to the software that these ticketing companies doing and what kind of APIs they have to allow the transactions to go down on our platforms. Problem is, ticketing across the board has been so incredibly antiquated. Within, the last definitely 10 years, maybe last 5 years, you had Ticketmaster operating on like DOS machines, like literally black screens with green text and no images, no nothing. Like, this industry has been so backwards for so long that, we're in a better place now, but we're just, when it gets to the artist, we're just not collecting the data appropriately, whether we know how or not.
Randy, last couple of things. We've spoken
Yeah,
quite a lot about Underoath's tour that they're on at the moment, and it's the 20th anniversary of their Only Chasing Safety, which was a super popular album for them. And we spoke about some of the moments that you've been trying to create each month to move ticket sales. But I guess in general, Underoath have obviously been around for quite a while. They're going through markets they've no doubt been to multiple times before. Beyond some of these executions we've already spoken about, are there any other ways that you try and excite older fans who maybe saw them 20 years to actually get out of the house and come back again? Or is that the idea behind these 20th anniversary tours, that is the hook?
Yeah, I mean, that's really the idea with these tours, is to create a moment that you can't miss. And we have a lot of plans with social content, with it being a long tour, to capture some moments that we're creating during the show that we're not going to share yet, but a lot of really great moments in the show that are going to make people feel like they have to be there, create those FOMO moments. And then from that, the goal is to capture, as I shared, it's challenging to do, but capture as much of that fan data as we can and use that data to get them excited about Underoath's next record, and using nostalgia to bring them back to come when it's not a nostalgic moment. And then when we have this new record next year, the idea will be that this new record should speak to new fans. Kids that have never heard the band will hopefully hear it and love it, and then fall in love with some of the nostalgia too, or hate the nostalgia and only like the new music, and just expand the fan base.
Yeah. How finely do you segment that data? Like, once you've got that fan data, how much do you fine tune the segmentation?
We try to fine tune it to every degree we can, be it location, purchase history, how much you spend, how often you spend, what types of products you spend on, when in the year you spend, and, like all the way down to, I have data on fans who found a leaked link to our site before we launched a vinyl project about 5 years ago. And a bunch of people ran into our store and bought products that shouldn't have been available yet. That group is now a segment that we will message. And basically, like, I felt really bad for those fans. We canceled a bunch of orders on them because they found a link and then shared it with their friends and thought they were getting in on something, but the store wasn't fully built yet. And we had to cancel their orders. But they're a group that I created as a give back. When we launch new things, I'll try to throw something in there first to that group to be like, hey, we know, I don't even say it anymore, but the first couple of times I go, sorry for what happened, but here's first access. Now, some of those people just go, hey, because you're a big fan, here's first access. And they're literally getting it because they were a group of 100 people that got bummed out years ago. So we have all kinds of unique segments that we could create. For instance, when we did the live streams a couple of years ago, we did a live stream of their 3 biggest records. We did vinyl reissues of each of those records and merch reissues for each of those records. And we had some fans that bought just the vinyl, but not the ticket to the live stream. And we created segments of those people to message those vinyl fans to be like, hey, we really think you'll like this show. we're willing to give you a discount because you already spent money into our store for the first one of these streams because we believe you're going to love it and then want to buy the other two. And then we created another segment where everyone who bought a ticket to the first live stream but didn't buy a ticket to live stream 2 and 3, that we gave them a deal to encourage them to buy the other two because they bought the first one. And we believe that they would enjoy the other one. So we try to regularly create segments based on activity to encourage people to re-engage.
Nice.
And also try to protect that core fan where we're not overly discounting to someone who's done nothing to bring them into the ecosystem. Like if you paid $15 for the first live stream and, you didn't buy a ticket to the next one, I think what we did is say for $20, we'll sell you tickets to both of them. So they're paying more money than they would have paid for one, but less than if they bought both. And it's a way to incentivize people to come back, but not harming the people who bought all of them up front.
Yeah, absolutely. Something you mentioned earlier sort of tweaked a question I wanted to ask you just about the routing of this US tour, which I think is happening throughout fall and winter in the States.
Correct.
Is that a mechanism to try and avoid congestion? Because I imagine in summer and spring, there's a lot of artists hitting the road. Is touring in fall and winter, are there advantages to that in terms of reaching audiences?
Fall is honestly, it's still a pretty busy time of the year. So I would say not so much. Towards the end of the fall, it will calm down a little bit. But honestly, there's so many markets that wanted this tour that, being transparent, it was more about not enough days to squeeze it all in. Right. So it ran long. But, we didn't want to go up in the summer because the summer people like to go outdoors more often. They like to go to those big outdoor amphitheater type shows. And this is a very intimate show. So it belongs indoors. So that rules out the summer. Sure, and, nice. Just based on timing, it wouldn't have made sense to go out in the spring of this past year. It would have been before the anniversary, but also very close to the previous tour they did. So it was really, a lot of it was just about timing.
Fair enough. Very last thing, you obviously work with a lot of promoters, both in venues and also at festivals. Are you seeing any of them do anything new or innovative, or are there any asks they're making of the band that is sort of new or innovative to help promote any of these shows?
I wish there was. I cannot name one innovative thing that I can think that maybe any promoter has ever brought to us. And this is not a slag on my promoter friends either. And, part of the problem is these marketers are marketing, they have a club that they could be running 150, 200 shows a year. So very quickly, if you have a good idea, it becomes cookie cutter and everyone's doing it.
Right.
If you have an idea and it doesn't work once, they're not bringing it back. So there may have been something that somebody brought at some point in time. It was, that's cool, we'll do that. But there's really not, over the last few years, you've seen the promoters do these discounted ticket days where once a year they'll do, like a no fee ticket or, a lower price ticket that drives a bunch of sales. Is that innovative? Maybe. But to me, a discount on one day of the year, that to me isn't innovation. But it helps move tickets, so that's beneficial. Sure. But I definitely want to be clear though. It's very difficult for promoters who, most promoters are operating in multiple venues. They're running shows every night of the week. There isn't that ability to be as creative as we all wish. And I'll admit it. There's a lot of people on the artist side that complain about these things, and I try to remind people that, there's a lot going on their side. And also, artists so often are so difficult. Like, take my idea that we're doing a fan-curated encore. If a promoter came to us with that, we would probably laugh in their face. If the artist isn't thinking about doing it already, then they're not doing it. So they're in a difficult spot too. So I don't want it to, sound like an attack on them. Right. And, I hope that somebody listens to this podcast and texts me, after hearing it and says that I'm an asshole, that we did something innovative with one of my artists, and I will happily be proven wrong. I just don't recall what that was.
Right. That puts a lot of emphasis on the artist then to actually be engaged and to try to think of these new things.
Yeah, ultimately, the artist is the marketer for these things. Unfortunately, it's very much on the artist to think of the plans, come up with the concepts, and, in a perfect world, though, you have a good marketer at your agency, you have a good marketer on your management team, and that the promoters, marketers are receptive and happy to work with you on your new ideas.
Right. Randy, thanks so much for your time. It's been so great to chat.
Yeah, this was great. And I want to end saying one other thing on promoters. If any promoters want to bring innovative ideas to me, I will hear them all day long. I don't want it to be an attack on all my friends. And
Okay.
one final thing I'm going to say also is everybody in America should check out Fix the Ticks. It's an organization that is fighting really hard to change ticketing laws around the country to protect fans. And Fix the Ticks is a really important organization, and everyone should be aware of it. And there's a bill coming before the Senate later this summer. We've already gotten a bill through the Congress, and it will make a difference. And it is much more important than the sideshow of Live Nation Ticketmaster. Although there are some issues there, but if we want to change the system, we need to go after the scalpers. That's what's really going to change things.
Nice one. Awesome.
And thank you for your time.